As we continue with our service, let's sing number 183 SDA hymnal, number 121 in the Vernac. I will sing of Jesus' love. Number 183 SDA hymnal and number 121 Vernac. I'll ask the church to stand. I will sing of Jesus' love, sing of Him who first loved me, for He led round roads above and died on Calvary. I will sing of Jesus' love and His praise. My heart shall give, He has died that I might live. I will sing His love to me. Nothing till the day of death, Jesus' tears for me did flow. Now I felt the sea as dark as night, then He made as white as snow. I will sing of Jesus' love and His praise. My heart shall give, He has died that I might live. I will sing His love to me. Nothing good for Him I've done. How could He such love bestow? Lord, I owe. My heart is one. Help me now, my love to show. I will sing of Jesus' love and His praise. My heart shall give, He has died that I might live. I will sing His love to me. I will sing of Jesus' love and His praise. My heart shall give, He has died that I might live. I will sing His love to me.
Good afternoon to you all. How are you today? That's good. I always feel at home. I visited new churches, and it always interests me before I go. I came here early this morning. Who is there going to be at church that I know? And I always run into trouble with these people that remember me from long ago. But when you've been teaching for almost 40 years, there's a lot of people that have gone through under your care. And it's good to be here, and it's good to be with all the members, all the old pupils of mine, as well as your program. Now, the brother who took the prayer this morning said he had 2 or 3 minutes for his. At that rate, I can preach until 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. But it's good to be here, and I'm glad to be with you, and glad to share a bit of God's thoughts with you. Our sermon this afternoon is going to be divided into 4 different parts. 2 of them are parables, and 2 of them are fact files, just information that maybe we wouldn't otherwise think of. But the first one, a parable. Some years ago, I was sitting with my family in a mug and bean. We had ordered our meal, vegetarian of course, and enjoyed the meal. I always enjoy, I shouldn't be advertising, I always enjoy Mug and Bean. We call it headquarters because we go there fairly often. And after the meal, I called the waiter and I said, please, may I have my slip? And he went to the cash point and he punched the buttons on the machine and took a piece of paper. And on the way back to me, he was stopped by a customer at a table. And he was delayed there for a while. And I'm watching now, waiting, what's happening? When's my paper coming? When do I know what to pay? And eventually he came to me and he said, the lady at the table has paid your bill for you. Now, what a pleasure. How often does that happen to you? How often have you done it to anybody else? So I thanked her, and when we got up, we walked past, and I said, thank you very much. I appreciate that. She was quite an attractive lady. She had red hair, lots of freckles, green eyes, looked Irish, you know, those of you that know what the Irish look like. And I thanked her and appreciated. She didn't say much. She just said, it's a pleasure, and we went our way. But after that, things started happening in my life that are difficult to explain, mostly to my good. For instance, somebody paid money into my school fee account for my kids' education. And I saw this deposit, and I went to the school accountant to correct it, and they said, no, a lady with red hair was here and paid that into your account. Now, I'm a married man already. I'm beginning to wonder what's happening here. But continually, you know, I would go to a store, and they would say, oh, here's a discount voucher for you. Things that I really didn't expect. I was really getting things that I had no explanation, couldn't understand. So one day, I was walking in town and I saw this redhead in front of me. There's only one like that. So I went and touched her, grabbed her elbow, and I said, excuse me, I'd like to talk to you. Sure. So we went into the first place there, a Spur. We went in and ordered our coffee, decaf, and and I said to her, there's something happening here, I don't know what, but you seem to be involved. And she nodded, so yeah, so things. I said, I need to know what's going on. You must explain to me, please, because dodgy. I'm not sure. I enjoy what's happening, but I don't know where it's going. So she said to me, no, please don't worry. I'm not acting on my own behalf, okay? I'm acting on behalf of a very old but very rich man. Well, I could understand the very rich because I'd already been experiencing some of that. So I said, yes. She said, he's very interested in you and what you're doing. Well, fair enough. I do interesting things. And she says, he's told me that I can tell you that he loves you very much. Now, I come from the old school. I'm sorry. But when a man tells me that he loves me, my hair stands up, if it can stand up anymore. And I get the cold shivers down my spine, and you don't always think through things like this very properly, in a proper manner. But I stood up so quickly, I kicked my chair, it crashed back on the floor. I was up and I was busy slapping her right out of her chair when I remembered two things. One is she's a woman, you don't slap a woman. Number two is it's Spur and everybody had their cell phones out. But the thing that amazed me most is that she looked me straight in the eye and she wasn't even scared. She said, it's not physical. What a relief. I'm glad about that one. So I said, you've got some explaining to do. Tell me more. Tell me what's up. So she went on about this man. He's wealthy. He was old. He had incredible abilities. And he was interested in my future, what I was doing. And he wanted to help me. And I wasn't the only one. And all these sort of things alleviated the situation somewhat. I was glad I hadn't slapped her. But she told me the whole story. And then I said, that's good and that's well. But what's what does he expect of me? You know, you never get anything without some strings attached. And she was talking about he would like you to spend time with him, and he would like you to show your appreciation through giving. And when they start talking about things like that, the whole query, the whole question rises again of what's going on. I didn't understand the whole issue. We carried on. That's fine. We left, said goodbye to her, and I went on my way. And the thing is, this intervention, this interference in my life hasn't stopped yet. 3 years ago, we were in Zambia. Now, I started working in the Transkei Republic, as it was Gudala. Then we went to Zimbabwe, and I know a lot of you from Zimbabwe. Then I went to Helderberg. I was working at the high school there. Then we went to Botswana for a few years. Then we went to Zambia for 5 years. We came back from Zambia about 3 years ago. And the reason we came back is because I'm getting old, all right? I admit. And I know I loved my soccer, but it's a bit much now at my age. But I wanted to buy a home. So when I come to retirement, which is very soon, then I don't have to rely on the church to find a place for me to stay. I've got my own home, so I wanted to come back, get settled, buy some place to stay. We moved to Heidelberg. I was given a job through the conference running the development trust that's looking after the retirement villages and the frail cares. So we'd rented in Heidelberg while we checked the market out. I was working in Three Rivers down that side. And after allowing ourselves time to settle down and pick out whereabouts we wanted to live, I went through to the estate agents in that area. And I said to them, listen, I'm looking for a small holding. This is my price range. Please, if you have anything, let me know. And there was nothing really happening. And I want to live outside. I'm not an urbanite. I'm not a city dweller. I've been a missionary all my life, and I like being out and beyond. I wanted a small holding far out of town. Then nothing happened, and I looked around and ended up looking at a house in town in Three Rivers. I found a house, looked at it. This would probably fit in my price range. I could do something with the house. I'm a practical man, so I can fix up the problems, no problem. And I was about to put my offer into this gentleman selling the home when an estate agent phoned me, and he said, listen, you left your name with us a couple months back. You were looking for a small holding. Are you still looking for a small holding? I said, yes, I am. So he says, I've got one. And he gave me the price, and it was a bit above what we were willing to look at, what we thought we could afford to pay. But I said, all right, let me see the place at least. So we made an appointment. About 2 or 3 days later, he met me early in the morning. And as he came into the office, he says, you're in great luck. So I said, what's so lucky about me today? He says, the owner of the house phoned me this morning and brought the house price down to, and that was my ceiling, as much as I was willing to pay for a home. I knew before I even saw the place that I was going to buy it. Also knew before I even left the office that there was a redhead involved. That's the way it goes. That's number one. Allow me to tell you the second part of my sermon. I'm a scientist. I grew up as trained as a biology teacher. I taught biology, as those of you that are my students know. Biology and science, Bethel College, Anderson School. After that, I went into administration. Haven't been teaching much anymore, but I'm scientific. I like facts and information. I don't like ethereal thoughts about philosophy. Forgive me, I know that some people it's the backbone. You're welcome to that, but I'm not. Let's get down to facts. Rain. We've been without rain now for several months. I need it. I've got a small holding, and my grass looks like your parking lot. In fact, it's probably drier than your parking lot. I see a bit of green out there. I don't have any green on my lawn, but I've got a monster lawn. Because I got a small holding, I've got a lawn that takes me 4 hours just to mow the front lawn. And it takes me another 3 hours to do the back, and then half of the property is not even mowed. It's long grass like this. So I look forward to the rain, although it brings work. I haven't mowed the lawn for several months now, and I'm glad for that, but I like rain. If we have 10 millimeters of rain, 1 centimeter, which is not a lot of rain, okay? 10 millimeters of rain, if we have it on a small piece of ground, 10 meters by 10 meters, that is 1 ton of water. It's maths, plain maths. Go work it out yourself, very simple. 1 ton of water, 10 meters by 10 meters. The place this size. Estimation, the rainfall we had this past season, have you been in here for a year? Has the roof been replaced in the past year? You've had over 500 tons of water fall on this building in the past rainy season. 500 tons. 1 ton for 10 meters by 10 meters. A hectare is 100 tons. 1 square kilometer is 10,000 tons. A rainstorm that might be 5 kilometers wide, 20 kilometers long. 10 millimeters is not a lot of rain. Is 1 million tons of water. Now that's a lot of water. That's heavy. If you phone me and tell me, come over and visit me, we've got tons falling on us here, I say, don't worry, I'll stay where I am. I'm quite happy. But we've got this vast quantity of water that falls on us in the rainy season, and we actually enjoy it. But when you think about how much water there must be up in the sky, next time I go to OR Tambo, I'm going to ask for a submarine, not for an airplane, because there's millions and millions of tons of water floating around up in the sky. Despite that fact that there's so much weight in the water, in the sky, God pours it out on us in a way that we enjoy. Sometimes people are damaged. I admit that. There's floods and things like that. But by and large, most everybody enjoys the rain. That's just 10 millimeters of rain. That's a small piece like that. This past season had 700 millimeters of rain in my property. So imagine how many tons fell there. But I was safe. God provided it in a way that was good for me. That's number 2. For number 3, I want to tell a story that's not my own. It comes from the book by an author, a Christian author called Philip Yancey. I'm sure some of you have read his. If you haven't, find one. They're very good. He wrote a book called What's So Amazing About Grace. And the story that I'd like to tell you now, parable, comes from that book. A little girl, young girl, teenager, just turned teenager, lived in a place called Traverse City, which was a few hours north of Chicago. But like most teenagers, was having problems with home. Parents were just too strict. They didn't like the length of her skirts. They didn't like the friends she spent time with. They didn't like the hours she spent wasting in her room on the computer. All of these things, and one day, in a fit of rage, she screamed at her father, "I hate you," ran into her bedroom, slammed the door, sat down on her bed, and decided to put into motion a plan that she'd been working on or thinking on for several months already. She was going to run away. She packed her little bag, a little brown suitcase with some of her favorite fashions in. She had a bit of pocket money that she'd earned, that she'd saved up. She was going to buy a bus ticket and go to Chicago. And she was going to stay in Chicago because kids that run away in America normally go to Florida or California because it's nice and warm. But she was going to go to Chicago, and she was sure nobody would ever find her in Chicago. She had a little teddy bear she left on a pillow, climbed out the window into the apple tree, down the driveway, walked into town, caught the late night bus going through to Chicago. Took her several hours to get there. Got there early in the morning as the sun was coming up. Wandered around town. She sat down on a bench in a park but facing the traffic, sidewalk traffic going up and down here. This was for her as a rural girl, farm girl, very interesting to sit and watch the cars go up and down. And thought about her plans. Now she was independent. She could do what she wanted to do. She didn't have to ask mom and dad at all. A little bit apprehensive because she's in a big city and things are new and she doesn't know what's going on, but confident that she has the ability to sort it all out. She's going to make it work. She sat there for several hours trying to evaluate where she's going to stay tonight. That's the most important part. She could afford a hotel for a night or two, but she didn't have enough money to stay there long term. So hotels were probably out. It cost too much. And she was sitting there mulling over the options when the hero arrives. In what they say in Afrikaans, a lang slapkar, a big yank tank. Beautiful red color, white upholstery convertible. And the guy driving stops just in front of her across the sidewalk, and he says to her, "Excuse me, ma'am, I've come past a few times. I see you've been sitting here for a long time. Is there a problem? Can I help you at all?" And at first, her first thought was, "Mom and Dad taught me, be careful of strangers." But her second thought was, "So what? I'm now independent. I can do what I want." So she said to him, "I'm just thinking about which hotel I must stay in tonight." And I'm trying to sound like quite the miss here. She was a fairly well-developed little girl for 13, so she could get away with a bit of independence. But the guy, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Hero, he says to her, "Listen, if it'll help you, your choice, of course, but I've got a spare room at my home. You're very welcome to come and stay there until you sort out your plans for the future." What she didn't know was that he was a pimp. Running Madam's was his business. But to her, it was a solution. She could save some money instead of going to the hotel, so she hopped into the car, drove through to his house, and settled in. Thought she was now in seventh heaven. Her own place, her own room, everything was fine. She stayed there. She could come and go she wanted. Do what she wanted. It wasn't long before she gave up on her own bedroom and moved in with him. And it wasn't long before his friends also started coming around. But she was making good money, and she was very glad for that. It was a means of income that she hadn't thought of, but it was quite lucrative. And as far as he was concerned, this was a gold mine. She was underage. She was new. She demanded top dollar, or commanded top dollar and got it. It got to the stage where business was so good that he decided he was going to set her up in her own penthouse. And penthouse is the top floor of a block of flats. And it's the Lani house, the best one. So she had the whole flat to herself. She could come and go. She had appointments she had to meet. But she was making money and doing so well that she really thought she was in the pound seats. Unfortunately, as in all situations like that, we have a little something that speaks to us. Her conscience was bothering her. And every now and then she'd think of the farm back at Traverse City. She'd think about her mum and dad and wonder if she really was having a good time. But she also found that she could control's not the right, she could subdue her conference, suppress her conference with a bit of alcohol, which eventually developed into drugs. And as we know, when we start with that thing, it's just the beginning of a long, slippery trail, and she got more and more involved in alcohol and drugs. About a year passed, no, it was less than that, a couple months passed, when she got the fright of her life. When she was having a cereal in the morning, pouring milk into a cereal, she saw her picture on the side of the milk carton. In America, they have a campaign, kids that run away. They print their pictures on the milk cartons, and they don't have milk bottles or plastic bottles like we do. They've got those old waxed cardboard square cartons, long ones. And they have a campaign where they print pictures of runaway kids. And she was a bit panic-struck at first when she saw her picture, and then realized there's very little chance that anybody's going to match that picture with the young lady that she now was, and the way she looked, and the makeup that she was using now. She was in business for, as I say, making a lot of money for a couple years. But alcohol and drugs is not good for you. And it doesn't do much for your appearance as well, as she found out to her detriment. One day, Big Johnny came in and he said to her, listen, you've been great. You've done very well. You've made yourself a lot of money, but you haven't looked after yourself. You're too alcohol and drug dependent now. Done with you. Get out. So she packed her best clothes in that little suitcase. The clothes that she'd now bought over the past year or two. The clothes that my dear mother-in-law refers to as barbed wire fashions. And that's because they protect the property without spoiling the view. So she packed her barbed wire fashions in her little brown suitcase, and she was out on the street. She knew a bit more about the city. She could find her way around. She knew how to make money. Didn't come to her. She had to go look for it, but she carried on with what she was been doing, making money. But things were not easy because you had to go find the customers. There's a lot of competition out on the streets. And she needed a lot for her drug habit. And it got rougher and rougher, and she began to think about Traverse City, her home, her own bedroom, a teddy bear on the pillow. She was sure it was still there. But she couldn't get herself to the position of admitting she'd done something wrong and turning back to home. So she plied her trade on the street and did fairly well for a while. But winter came. And when you've got no home, no place to stay, because your money's all been used up by your drugs, you've got to sleep out on the streets. You've got to wrap yourself up in cardboard instead of a blanket. It's not easy. She managed for a short while. But when the snow started falling, those barbed wire fashions are not very warm. She had to fight for a place on the air vent. In the States, all the big buildings are air conditioned, and the hot air that they extract from the building, they pump out through an air vent. They normally come out in the sidewalks. You know the classic picture of Marilyn Monroe with the air vent blowing? She was fighting for a place where she could curl up and sleep on that air vent wrapped in her cardboard boxes, trying to stay warm with the winter snow all around her. And the realization came to her, it's not going to last. There's a better place. She tried to phone several times, but never got to the call box. She'd start walking, now she's going to go home. And she'd walk towards the telephone, and as she got closer and closer to the telephone, her courage would evaporate. She'd turn around and go back and look for some more business. Eventually, she did get to the call box. She called home. There was an answering machine. She didn't know whether to be relieved or disappointed, but she said, listen, I'm going to be on the bus at midnight, Thursday night. Please meet me. She hung up. Wasn't sure that it was the right decision, but figured that she was going to die if she stayed out on the streets through winter. And caught the bus that Thursday. And on the way back, it was about a 7-8 hour trip from Chicago to Traverse City. She suddenly realized what a stupid mistake she'd made. If the telephone was on answering machine, that means the folks were not at home. Maybe they were out of town. They'd gone on holiday. She's going to get to Traverse City. She's going to get off the bus, go into the depot, and not find anybody, and she won't know whether the parents got the message and decided that they didn't want anything to do with her, or whether they were out of town and they didn't even know that she was coming. You always think of the problems later once you've made rushed decisions. But there was nothing that she could do. She'd used up her last money after a drug fix to buy the ticket to Traverse City, and she had to go through. Get there, face the music, find out what happens when she gets there. She got to Traverse City at about just before midnight, got out of the bus, walked into the waiting room. Big banner across the back of the wall, "Welcome home." A crowd of people, mom and dad, uncles and aunts, school friends, neighbors, everybody running around, jumping up and down, whistling and shouting, "Welcome, welcome." And she figured, I can't take this. But her dad came out. And she'd better explain. She said, "Dad, this is not..." And he said, "Shh, we're glad you're back. Dad, I'm addicted. I'm drugs. Shh, shh. We love you. We're glad you're back." That's number 3. Let's look at number 4. Another fact file. As I told you, I'm a biology teacher. And there's so many numbers that I've now got to look at my notes because I can't remember all these numbers. Human beings live, let's assume it's about 70 years. Apparently the latest statistics I heard last week, in South Africa, life expectation for women is 67, for men it's 64. Let's talk about 70 years, which is 3,600 weeks, or about 25,000 days, more or less, give or take. That's the lifespan of a human being. Your body is composed of 37 trillion cells. Now, I don't know when you last heard the word trillion. Let me try and explain it. We know tens, hundreds, thousands. A million, we've got the concept. A billion, now we're starting to talk Gupta money. A billion is 1,000 million. A trillion is 1,000 billion. Your body is made up of 37 trillion cells. Do we have a concept of 37 trillion? Let's try and, as a teacher, that's where I come from, that's what I talk about. As a teacher, when you teach a child something, you attach new information to something that they already know. All right, that's the foundation that you build up on. You don't give them something that just floats in the air. They can't attach it to knowledge, information that they have. So let's try and attach this. 37, let's talk about seconds. We know more or less how long a second takes, okay? 1 million seconds is about 11 and a half days. 1 billion seconds is about 37 years. 37 trillion seconds is more than 1,170,000 years. Can't get in. It's too much. Let's take a millimeter. We all know what a millimeter is, all right? A millimeter is that big. 1,000 millimeters is a meter. 1 million millimeters, a kilometer. 1 billion millimeters, that's about driving from here down the N1, you'll get to between Beaufort West and Lanesburg. It's 1,000 kilometers, okay? 37 trillion. It's around the world at the equator 975 times. It's a big number. Still can't get it. Rice. We know what the size of a piece of rice is. I bought a packet of fantastic rice and scientifically I counted it, okay? 1 million grains of rice is about a 20 kg, okay? There's 2 of those big bags you get at the wholesalers, which we don't normally buy, but 20 kg. 1 billion grains of rice is 20 tons. That's one of these big trucks. Maybe not full, but 20 tons. 37 trillion. A railway carriage carries 40 tons. 37 trillion grains of rice is a train of 40 of those carriages, 450 trains of 40 carriages of rice. What's this? 100 rand. Let's talk about things that we like to talk about, okay? This is 100 rand. If I have 1 million rand in 100 rand notes, that'll fit into a medium-sized suitcase, okay? Not the big ones, but the medium-sized suitcase. 1 million rand. 1 billion rand is this stage probably packed up to the roof. That'll be about 1 billion rand in 100 rand notes. 37 trillion? A soccer field 15 meters deep in 100 rand notes. Go do the maths. Maybe I should just say 37 trillion is a monstrous number. It's very difficult for us to understand the concept because it's just bigger than anything we think. That's how many cells you have in your body. These cells, 300 million of them will die and be replaced every second of your life. 300 million. Okay, there's 37 trillion, so it doesn't matter. Some 300 million are going to die and be replaced every second. The lungs, the surface area in your lungs where gaseous exchange takes place is probably the size of this part of the hall from here to there. Inside my chest. We breathe 50,000 liters of air every day. When last did you think about breathing? Your heart beats 100,000 times per day. And during a lifetime, you will pump up to 500,000 tons of blood through your body. You blink? Do you think about blinking? 6 million times a year. You swallow, excuse the gross, you swallow 1 liter of saliva every day. Just without even thinking, you swallow. That's the way it happens. Your body, your digestive system secretes 10 liters of digestive enzymes, fluids, every day. And those digestive fluids, particularly the acids in the stomach, are so strong, the acid in your stomach can break down steel. So why doesn't your stomach disappear? Your stomach does disappear. Remember the 300 million every second that are broken down and replaced? Lots of those on your stomach. The surface of the stomach is eroded, is broken down by the acid, but it's continually replaced. That's the way your body works. Everything that you ever sense, that you see, that you read, that you touch, that you feel, everything that you ever sense is stored in your brain. They did an experiment with a young lady. They implanted electrodes into her brain, and they simulated those electrodes. And she immediately relived an experience she had 17 years before. She had gone to a concert. The reliving included hearing the music that was being played, seeing the musicians with their instruments, smelling the perfume of those around her, tasting the popcorn she was eating. It was all stored in there. And I've got to ask you the question, what are you putting away into there because it stays there. And I've got to expand that. What's happening, what is going into your children? What are you allowing them to be exposed to? What school I'm an education director, right? What school are you sending your children to? Because where the school they go to depends, going to decide what goes into there. Your body also contains lots of bacteria. Now, bacteria are not bad, by and large. I know the advertised Dettol kills 99%, but most of those things that they kill are actually good for you. You've got bacteria living in your body. You've got, should I tell you? You've got lice that live in your eyebrow hair follicles. Everybody's got it. It's normal. But let's get back to the bacteria. You've got 10 times as much bacteria in your body as you have cells. So if you've got 37 trillion cells in your body, then you've got 370 trillion bacteria. But the bacteria are a lot smaller than the cells. So the 370 trillion bacteria, you could fit them in a 2-liter bottle. That's the way you're made. Your skeleton, the bones of your body, are totally replaced every 10 years. So there are little cells that work their way through the bone, eating pieces of bone, and there are other cells that come behind them, replacing it. So in 10 years' time, the bone or the bones that you've got now are not, the bone matter is not the bone matter that you had 10 years ago. That's all been changed. Your skin is totally replaced every 23 days. Now, probably worse if it looks, you see it when your skin is dry. You might not see it if you use lotion all the time. But the surface cells of your skin are continually dying and being replaced. They say, and it might not apply to me because I live down there in the failed driehoek, the Vaal triangle with all Sasol and Isco and all of those pollution places. But they say in a normal urban house, majority of the dust that is in your home is dead skin cells that you have shed, just living there. But your skin is replaced every 23 days. I've got a God who loves me so much that he interferes in my life on a regular and daily basis to my good. I don't accept it all the time. I don't always like it. Sometimes I want to slap his messengers, but it's for my good. I've got a God that protects me from potential danger in a variety of ways. But he cares about me and he looks after me. I've got a God who loves me even when I'm bad. That's difficult. We don't love others when they're bad. But I've got a God who loves me even if I tell him I hate him and I run away from him. As soon as I turn back, he says, I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you're back home. I love you. I've got a God who created me in such a way, with so many cells, in such detail, that even in today's modern scientific world, with hundreds and thousands of scientists working on the physiology and the function of the body, they don't know how the body works. It is beyond us in our current understanding. I've got a God who created me like that. My question, so what? So what? Does it make a difference in my life? Knowing some of the ways that God loves me? And knowing that, do I feel under any obligation? Obligation is not the right word. When I'm obliged to do something, I do it because I have to do it. Not so. Somebody does something to me, I'm obliged to repay, whatever, return. That's an obligation. So obligation is not the right word. If God loves me so much, what is my response to his love? Can I say, so what? Thanks, dude. I'll get on with my life. You get on with yours. You keep blessing me. I'm happy with that. Let's go. I've got a wife sitting in the back there that I love. How am I going to respond to that love? Do I say, okay, you love me, that's good, you can come and stay in my house. I'll pay for some of the food, I'll pay for the electricity and the water, your clothes, all right, some of your clothes, the rest you can do. Is that the way we operate when we love somebody? No, because I love her, because she loves me, I'm more than willing to do all sorts of things for her. And it's not because I'm obliged to, it's not because I have to. It's because I feel loved, and I feel looked after, and I feel cared for. And even if I have to sacrifice in order to let her have the things that she feels she would like, it's my pleasure. I don't do it because I had a certificate that was signed by the pastor 3 years ago or something. I just do it because she loves me, and I love to respond. God loves us. How are we going to deal with that? How do we respond? Am I obliged to go to church, pay my tithes, not eat pork, dance, drink, drugs, you name them all? Is that my obligation, my response to God's love to me? Or do I want to help him because he's helped me? I'd like to close with one text. It's found in Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 2, verse 15. It's not 2 o'clock, I can still go. 2 Corinthians 2, verse 15. For we are to guard the fragrance of Christ among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. We are to guard the what? Fragrance. What is a fragrance? Smell. Now, I can tell you there's lots of smells that are not fragrances. If the sewer is blocked and is running on the ditch outside my house, there's no fragrance in that. If I haven't bathed for a week, there's no fragrance in me. What's a fragrance? A pleasant smell. What's that? Chanel. What's that? Something nice. We are to guard the fragrance of Christ. To who? To those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. What does your community see in you? Are you the fragrance of Christ? I don't want to say it, but are you a smell? A bad one. What is my response to God's great love to me? Let us be that that's nice. Let us be that fragrance. When others see us, what have you got that's so special? Why are you different? What? I like what I see. May God, his love poured out in our lives, bring that response that I want to share him with everybody. Let's turn to our closing hymn, number 321. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine. As we sing it, let's not just sing it because it's a closing hymn and it's time to go for lunch. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine.
I'll ask the church to stand as we sing our closing item. My Jesus, I love thee, I know thou art mine.
Father in heaven, we have maybe looked at your love a little bit different this afternoon than we have before. Forgive us if we're a stench in the noses of those around us. May the appreciation, the understanding of your love be a little deeper than it was before, and may we go forth from here to be the fragrance amongst those to be saved and those that are perishing. Bless us now and keep us each, we pray. In Jesus' name.